Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoteric and our continuing series What? Why? Where we take a look at some of the weirder yet still fun video games in the history of gaming itself. And today we have Cho Aniki, also known as Super Big Brother, the ultimate most powerful man in the Milky Way. It's a mouthful of a title, it's a weird game, but it is charming. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, down below hit like, subscribe, and that notification bell definitely helps us out. If you feel so inclined and want to donate protein to my Patreon, the link's down below as well. When we did the video on Muscle March, I told you it wouldn't be the only game in this series that involved muscly Japanese bodybuilders who were out looking for protein. That is the hook for Muscle March, and that's the hook for Cho Aniki as well. And this is not my favorite game in the series, although it is quite fun, but I've already talked about Cho Aniki and Cho Aniki on the PC Engine on my channel, so I couldn't pick those again. And if you saw that intro in the beginning, it was so weird, I will put the entire intro after the credits because you need to see the thing go from start to finish. But right off the top, it's a shmup, you can understand that, but all of the things going on in this game are just absolutely absurd, dialed up to a 15, not an 11. We have a boss here, a man who's clearly muscly, he's got a comb over, and another smaller man comes from a metal tube at the bottom of him and kind of pivots like he's some sort of fleshy appendage. I don't know how to do the voiceover for this video without saying exactly what things are supposed to be, so I don't think you need to use much of your imagination to understand what that actually was supposed to be. But this game just plays it straight in its weirdness. It's not trying to hide anything, it's not trying to be sly, everything's exactly what you think it is. But why not do that? Why try to hide your weirdness? Why not let it just live front and center? Because the developers at Masaya love to do that, because they made a ton of weird games, but interestingly enough, they also made a lot of games that weren't weird whatsoever. This almost seems like a side pivot to them. If you can't see that missile, look for it again when it comes up, because the tip of it, there it is. Kind of looks like something that I think, like, based on stats, 98% of my viewership will have seen before. But honestly, being sly in this commentary is just fun, pointing out the things that are obvious and making you kind of giggle at them. But it is a competent shmup. Masaya was not the best developer of shmup games ever, but they weren't bad, and these games always kind of just get made fun of as being crappy games that are weird. They're decent games that are weird. They are not bad video games, they're just not the best, but honestly, nothing has to be the best. You can have a ton of fun just by playing something that's slightly strange in a genre that you're familiar with, and just kind of having a good time. And you'll see there, this pyramid of Japanese bodybuilders has finally been destroyed, and they just fly off into the distance. And of course, what is a game without a fish who has biceps? I mean, I've never seen a fish that looks like that, and if I do, I'm going to swim as fast as I can the other direction. But in Cho Aniki, it has you covered completely. Now you will see that at certain points in time, those big globules of protein come out onto the screen, and you need to collect as many as possible, because that's how you actually charge up your special meter and unlock different abilities. Not every single enemy dispenses them, like those small divers there do not, nor do the half bodybuilder, half fish men. But then suddenly a giant frog comes in from off screen. It's kind of probably a tadpole too, because it doesn't have those back legs, and it's wearing a shell on its back. And then the sprite just deforms and kind of goes out to the side, and the frog's face gets longer, and then his tongue starts coming out and spinning around you. That is a literal description in voice of what is happening on screen in front of us, but it also is just absurd that that's even a description I have to give you guys inside. If you can't tell, it is a bound man sitting on top of a dairy cow. That's just how it works. Some backgrounds, kind of boring, but bodybuilding seagulls, amazing. And the soundtrack in this game is just absolutely strange from start to finish. Go ahead and listen for like 45 seconds and I will be right back. But enjoy dolphin riding men? Question mark?
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, it's just a wacky and fun soundtrack, but I will say the soundtrack to Cho Aniki on the PC Engine CD is probably the best work that Masaya ever did. But this would be the last game in the Cho Aniki series that Masaya made for consoles, because there is a version of this, a sequel on the PlayStation 2, but it was made by a different developer, and honestly lacks most of the charm, and isn't as weird. And honestly, if you're playing a Cho Aniki game, and you're not in it for the weirdness, why are you even bothering in the first place? But we beat that bodybuilding turtle mechanical shell. Sometimes you don't even know what it is you're fighting in this game. Like, there's these angry heads that just have bat wings on them. I don't know if they're, vampire heads or if they're El Oscuro from Rise of the Triad. Kind of remind me a little bit of both. But that's the fun part about this game. You just constantly see new and strange things, like bodybuilders that are half wasps, or I don't even know what's on those missiles right there. Looking at what's happening around you is half the charm and entertainment value of a Cho Aniki game, but the actual shoot-'em-up mechanics are quite good as well, and you'll see we finally got enough protein to get that power up, and we quickly lost it. I'm not even sure why we lose things. Sometimes we got it back there, maybe just taking a hit on those bodybuilders that are alongside of us. But now we have even larger wasps that are looking for a fist fight, but they are doling out an extra dose of protein for us today. And then this thing comes out. It's like I don't know, I can't even figure it out. It's basically just like a bowl filled with entrails or maybe shrimp, I'm really not sure either way, and it just keeps spitting out these spinning bodybuilding men on this screen. It's just absurd, and it's especially absurd because most if not everything in this game is made out of what looks like photographs just scanned into the game. So it's not sprite work like the earlier Cho Aniki games. These are actually people that must have been in a studio somewhere doing these poses for the development. And now that bowl is open, it develops a mouth that shoots at us, and it kind of just looks like a pile of red gravy and maybe some kidneys in there. But trying to figure out what's even going on in this game is half the fun, and it's good for a laugh. Like I said earlier in this series, these aren't just videos to make fun of games, they're videos to talk about games that just get counted because they are not quote-unquote normal. If you ever hear anybody talk about this game or any of the Cho Aniki games on an article somewhere online, it's probably primarily just going to be to make fun of how weird they are, and they're probably going to ignore that the games are quite competent. Now we just have these torsos that are flying with mechanical wings, and they have basically howitzer cannons coming out of their backs. But then sometimes you get normal things like normal people pushing these minecarts down the rail here. And because they're so small, I'm assuming everything else in this game is gigantic. Like those flying men there must be the same size maybe as Mothra in real life from Godzilla. And even thinking these strange thoughts is fun because that's what a Cho Aniki game makes you do. You're just trying to figure out what's going on and how things in the universe work. And there are a lot of games in this series, but sadly there hasn't been one for a long time. Maybe muscly bodybuilders that search for protein just aren't that popular for game developers anymore, but it definitely is a subgenre of gaming, is just bodybuilding men who want protein powder or globs of protein. And you will see this boss here is one of my favorites in the game. It's just absurd. It's a ghost train with Japanese conductors and people loading coal up into it, but there's also a bodybuilder at the front spitting things at you, and there's also a bodybuilder in the bottom of the train who's manually cranking the wheels by hand. And then you come back here and it looks like that's just a big bucket of popcorn, and what's going to come out of it, well, you'll have to wait and see. It is a foot in a high heel, or it's actually 2 feet. What does it mean? Why is it there? I don't think it really matters why it's there and what it means. You get to decide whatever it is for you, and you get to kind of have a laugh while you're playing a really good shmup. But that is Cho Aniki on the PlayStation 1. It's also available on the Sega Saturn. If you've never played him before, I recommend you check out the PC Engine versions, especially Cho Aniki, because I do think that is the best. But when I was coming up for a list of videos on this series, this was the first game I put on because I absolutely think it's amazing and it makes me laugh. Short of that, watch the intro after the credits. Bye-bye.